his fields did not anger him, but he ordered a passing muzhik to drive them out. With the same gentleness he received the sarcastic and impudent answer of the muzhik Ipet, whom he met and asked, "Ipet, shall we put in the seed before very long?" And Ipet replied, "We must plough first, Konstantin Dmitrich." The further he went, the more his good humour increased, and each of his plans for improving his estate seemed to surpass the other. To protect the fields on the south by lines of trees so as to prevent the snow from staying too long, to divide his arable fields into 9 parts, 6 of which should be well dressed and the other 3 sown down to grass, to build a cow yard in the farthest corner of one field, and have a pond dug, to have portable enclosures for the cattle so as to utilize the manure, and thus to cultivate 300 desyatins of wheat, 100 desyatins of potatoes, and 150 of clover, without exhausting the soil. Full of these reflections, he picked his way carefully along so as not to tread down his fields, till at last he reached the place where the labourers were sowing the clover. The cart, loaded with seed, instead of being left on the edge of the field, had been driven into the ploughed land, and his winter wheat was crushed by the wheels and trampled down by the horse. The 2 labourers were sitting by the edge of the field, evidently smoking a mutual pipe. The earth in the cart, mixed together with the seed, had not been worked over, but was full of hard or frozen lumps. When he saw the master, the labourer Vasily started toward the cart, and Mishka began to sow. This was all wrong, but Levin rarely got angry with his labourers. When Vasily came up to him, Levin ordered him to lead the horse to the side of the field. "It won't do any harm, sir. It will spring up again." "Please do not discuss it," replied Levin, "but do what I say." "I will obey," said Vasily, taking the horse by the head. "What splendid seed, Konstantin Dmitrich," he added to regain favour. "Best kind, but it is frightfully going. You drag a pud on each foot." "But why wasn't the earth sifted?" asked Levin. "Oh, it'll come out all right," replied Vasily, taking up some seed and crushing the lump in his palm. It was not Vasily's fault that they were scattering the unsifted soil, but it was vexatious, nevertheless. Having more than once to his advantage made use of a well-known means of wrecking his vexation, which always seemed to him foolish, Levin now determined to try it and see if he could recover his good temper. He noticed how Mishka strode along dragging huge clods of clay which stuck to each of his feet, so, dismounting, he took the seed cod from Vasily and began to scatter the seed. "Where did you stop?" Vasily touched the spot with his foot, and Levin went on as best he could scattering the earth with the seed. But it was hard as wading through a marsh, and after he had gone a row he stopped all in a sweat and returned to the seed cod. "Well, Baron, if that row doesn't come out well next summer, don't blame me for it," said Vasily. "Indeed I won't," replied Levin, gaily, already feeling the efficacy of the means he had employed. "But just look at the summer we're going to have. 'Twill be magnificent. If you'll notice, that's where I sowed last spring. How well I planted it! Why, Konstantin Dmitrich, I work as if I were working for my own father. Well, I don't like to do slack work. What is good for the master is good for us. And look yonder at that field," continued Vasily, pointing to the field. "It delights my heart." "It is a fine spring, Vasily." "Yes, it is such a spring as our old men can't remember. I was at home, and our elder had already sowed an acre of wheat, as he says he can hardly tell it from rye." "But how long have you been sowing wheat?" "Why, you yourself taught us how to sow it year before last. You spared me 2 measures. It gave 8 bushels, and we sowed an acre with it." "Well, look here, see that you break up the earth well," said Levin, as he started for his ambler. "Look after Mishka, and if the seed comes up well, you shall have 50 kopecks a desyatin." "We thank you humbly. We should be content even without that." Levin mounted his horse and rode off to visit his last year's clover field, and then to the field which was already ploughed ready for the summer wheat. The crop of clover in the stubble field was miraculous. It had all survived and was covering with a mantle of green all the ground where the preceding fall the roots of the wheat had been left. The horse sank up to the fetlock, and each foot made a sucking noise as he pulled it out of the half-thawed soil. It was entirely impossible to cross the ploughed land. Only where there was ice would it hold, but in the thawed furrows the horse's legs sank above the fetlock. The ploughed field was excellent. In 2 days the harrowing and sowing could be done. Everything was beautiful. Everything was gay. Levin rode back by way of the brooks, hoping to find the water lower. In fact, he found that he could get across, and, as he waded through, he scared up a couple of wild ducks. There ought to be snipe also, he thought, and a forest guard whom he met on his way to the house confirmed his supposition. He immediately spurred up his horse, so as to get back in time for dinner, and to prepare his gun for the evening. Chapter 14